Nigeria has been confirmed as the biggest economy in Africa as South Africa entered into recession for the second time in just 2 years. The economy contracted 1.4% in the fourth quarter of 2019, according to official statistics released on Tuesday. The contraction came after a 0.8% drop in economic output during the previous quarter, piling pressure on President Cyril Ramaphosa, whose pledge of a new dawn for the corruption-battered economy has flagged since he became president in 2018. Are South Africa's losses Nigeria's gains? Let's ask Chief Sonny Iroche, a seasoned economist and experienced director in finance and accounts. Mr. Iroche is also a non-executive board member at United Capital PLC. So, South Africa has fallen into recession, which means technically Nigeria is the continent's biggest economy. Do you think that's a well-deserved recognition?
Thank you very much, Juliana. We should not celebrate the fall of any nation, but since it's happened, it's happened. I believe South Africa was number 2 to Nigeria when we got our GDP to about 390 billion, while South Africa was about 100 billion. But now with the recent devaluation and recession, devaluation of Iran and recession, it's a good position for Nigeria to be to consolidate. And I've always believed that there should be a collaboration and cooperation between Nigeria and South Africa. I'm not celebrating the position Nigeria has taken, because for me, Nigeria should be far, far ahead of South Africa with our resources. We have largest crude and gas, and we have identified 34 solid minerals in Nigeria. So what we need to do really is to consolidate our position for the decade ahead. This is 2020. From 2020 to 2030, Nigeria should really, really improve and diversify its resource base from crude oil and gas to other things, agriculture, zinc, bauxite, columbite, and all the other minerals that we have. It's not only about oil. And if you also realize that the world is moving away from fossil oil.
It's a dirty business, isn't it?
Yeah, to hybrid cars, and later just evolve into electric cars. So fossil oil will still be very relevant to the economy, but not as much as it will be in the next 15 to 20 years. So we should start thinking critically on how to diversify our resource base as a nation.
It's an interesting point. 2.27%, that's the growth of the GDP by Nigeria in 2019. It's recovering, albeit slowly. Do you think there are any positive aspects of the government in terms of the economy, considering there is growth?
The 2.7% growth is understated. It's not the real growth for Nigeria, because...
Well, that's what the statistics are saying officially.
The statistics of the formal economy. But the informal economy of Nigeria is about 60% of what is not captured. So when you talk about 2.7, you're looking at 40% of the economy. But the traders in Alaba, those that have not been captured in the macroeconomics indicator of Nigeria, is about 60%. Wow. So I believe, if you ask me, as a rule of thumb, our economy is probably growing at a rate of about 5%. The truth of the matter is the National Bureau of Statistics only captures the formal sector, which we as economists know and believe it's only about 40% of the entire economy.
Well, if taking what you're saying into consideration, then the economy is doing much better than people expect.
Yeah, doing much better in spite of government, because the private sector is pulling its weight. You have the traders, you have those who are exporting, you have people who are... And again, government really shouldn't be taken to task on business. The role of government is purely to create an enabling environment and a catalyst to ginger the economy. The private sector, we the business people, should hold the bull by the horn and run. The Lekki Export Free Zone will soon come on. Dangote Refinery, Dangote's fertilizer plant, they're all coming up. And you also have Innocent Motors in Nnewi making cars, made in Nigerian cars. And I would like for us as Nigerians to patronize the Innocent made in Nigerian cars. It's made in Nigeria. And in fact, the entire African continent should buy made in Nigerian cars. We should start pushing our products so that it will get better with time.
Well, absolutely. I think that's probably the hopes and dreams of every nation, isn't it? You spoke about the future previously. Let's talk about that because, of course, Nigeria is the most populous African nation. 3.2% every year is how it's growing. The UN have forecast that in 2040, Nigeria's population will stand at 400 million. What measures need to be taken in place so that Nigeria can sustain itself, feed itself, like we're seeing in India, that has over 1 billion people, yet they are able to self-sustain? Do you think Nigeria is ready for that?
First and foremost, I think we should try and control our rate of population growth. It's very important because
Is that controversial, that statement?
I don't think it's controversial. From my point of view, you have to control your population. If you look at the Malthusian theory of in economics that says the world population grows at a geometric rate, whereas the food to sustain this population grows at arithmetical projection. We are right now anything between 150 to 200 million people. I'm not really sure of our population because in sensus stricto we have not had a proper census for over 20 years. So estimate, well, let's say 150 million people. If we continue to grow at the rate we are going, it would distort the geographic location of Nigeria. How do you feed them? How do you educate them? What's the percentage of the population that will be well educated and will stay in Nigeria? We've seen a lot of Nigerians leaving the country in droves, going to other countries to look for better life. So government also should project in the future how to feed how to house and educate this population. So our development plan should project 50 to 100 years.
Wow.
That's how it should be. We should be able to bring out economic models that would sustain the projected population. But first and foremost, I'm an advocate for controlled population. You recall when China was growing, they had this policy of one family, one child. It might have to get to that point. For me,
there are some dire consequences when it comes to the one child. I've got to ask you, Chief Sunny Aracha, because we are running out of time. We can't have a discussion about the economy without talking about debt. Debt currently stands at 26.14 trillion. According to the finance minister, we don't have a debt problem, yet the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, which were appointed by the government, say we do. Do we?
No, the economic, let me make that correction. The Economic Summit Group wasn't appointed by the government. It's a group put together by the organized private sector. And
endorsed by the government.
Yeah, of course. I mean, they're endorsed by the government. Let me put it this way. There is no way you can look at debt without considering the impact of debt on the economy. Debt in itself is not a bad thing. It depends on what the debt has gone to achieve for the country. If the debt has been accumulated for productive ventures, that is infrastructure and productive sector that will pay back itself from the cash flow generated by the business, then it's good. But if the debt is acquired for recurrent, paying overheads of a bloated government, of a bloated parliament, where you have about 360 legislators, you have 3 senators per state, they have different constituencies. That I don't support the fact that government is bloated and expensive. You say that 70% of our budget goes for recurrent expenditure, paying salaries, whereas less than 30% goes into capital projects that should ginger.
70%, are we sure about that?
Yes, we are certainly sure about it.
That's a
budget,
pretty high figure, Chief Sonny
the budget figures are out there.
70%.
70%.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me ask you this: Standard Chartered Bank, they were recently in Lagos, and they applauded the government. They said that raising value-added tax up to 7.5% is good. These are the kind of measures that need to be taken place. Do you agree with that statement?
Well, the value-added tax is targeted at luxury items. For us as a nation, we can't afford luxury. Then those who want to indulge in luxury have to pay for it. There's no value added in education. There's no value added in health. But there is value added if you stay in the hotel. If you go out to a luxurious restaurant to eat, there's value added. If you want to drink alcohol, there's value addition in the supply of alcohol, of beer, whiskey. You've got to pay for it. I'm all for it.
Coming up, I'll be speaking with independent mayoral candidate Nims Obunge about his campaign pledges for the capital.